Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about skeletal muscle diseases in horses. I'm Ginger Bailey, in case you don't remember from class. And today I have some helpers presenting. I have Cupcake and Zany. So they're going to help me out, give some examples for my presentation. So let's get started. So an overview of what I'm going to be presenting. I'm going to give you guys a genetic background. Woohoo, genetics. I hope you guys have all had it, but in case you haven't, I'm going to include some basic terms. And then the three diseases I'm going to be covering are hyperkalemic periodic paralysis, polysaccharide storage myopathy, and glycogen branching enzyme deficiency. We're going to be talking about the symptoms, treatment, and prevention of these diseases, and also the future or outlook of these diseases that you would see happening, and they're fighting in the background. Okay, so genetics. Of course, you have 16 chromosomes from your sire and 16 chromosomes from your dam to make the 32 for the foal that come together. So dominant means that this trait will be expressed even if there's only one copy of the gene. So 2 would obviously be expressed as well, but that trait will show. Recessive means that this trait will only be expressed if there's 2 copies of that recessive gene. So looking at the Punnett square, you can see that 3 of those combinations will show the dominant trait, but only 1 in the bottom right corner will show that recessive trait. Another term we'll cover in this presentation is incomplete dominance, which means that the traits will blend. The textbook example we learned in genetics was the white flower and the red flower that come together to make the pink flower as it's blending. So red, white make pink. And then another big chunk of this presentation will be mutations. So a mutation causes gene function to be altered, so the gene would not function as normal because it's messed up. There are 3 main types of mutations. There's base pair substitutions, which means you're swapping out one base for another. There's insertions, which means you may insert another base. And deletions, which means that you may take out a base. All right, the first disease is hyperkalemic periodic paralysis, which I will refer to as HYPP because it is a mouthful. But this is caused by a substitution mutation, so it's swapping a C for a G of the alpha subunit muscle sodium channel gene. So this substitution will cause sodium to leak into the muscles, which is going to stimulate overcontraction of these muscles. Those overcontractions will cause potassium to leak into the bloodstream, which will cause hyperkalemia to occur. This is a dominant gene with incomplete dominance, and they were able to trace this mutation back to a famous quarter horse sire named Impressive, pictured on the left, and he was impressive. He was a very good horse in the show pen, and as a sire, he sired over 2,000 foals. Both Cupcake and Zany here, who decided to leave, are both descendants of Impressive. Cupcake is not registered, but Zany is, and so you can see it distantly on her papers that she is related to him. So, moving on, symptoms you may see of HYPP include muscle twitching, tremors, weakness of the horse because their muscles are affected. You may see yawning and drooping of the third eyelid. Sweating is a common symptom, and in severe cases, you'll see collapse and sometimes even death. To treat horses that are in episodes, you want to lightly exercise them. This may mean hand walking, a little bit of light lunging, just a little bit to get them out of the episode. You want to feed them carbohydrates. A lot of breeders and owners keep Karo syrup on deck to help treat that. And then a medical treatment is acetazolamide. It is a diuretic that will help pull potassium out of the bloodstream to excrete it. So the kidneys are pulling the potassium out to excrete it and get it out. And then to prevent episodes from occurring, you want to completely just avoid potassium in the diet. This means do not feed them alfalfa or molasses. And you want to keep horses on a regular feeding schedule. You want to frequently turn them out in the pasture for grazing time and just completely reduce all stress to the horse, which may mean no trailering for long distances. You want to watch them carefully at a horse show. Just make sure your horse is happy and healthy as possible. All right, moving on. We have polysaccharide storage myopathy. They are not completely sure of the exact mutation that PSSM is responsible for, but they know that it is on the GYS1 gene. This gene codes for glycogen synthase. So the mutation will cause unregulated synthesis of glycogen to occur. So this excessive amount of glycogen that has now been produced will be stored in the muscles. This will make muscles stiff and painful, so the horse is not going to be happy, not going to want to move. It is a dominant gene like HYPP with incomplete dominance. And there are two types of PSSM that you will see. There's type 1, which affects a greater variety of breeds, including quarter horses, thoroughbreds, Morgans, and draft horses. This is diagnosed with both an increased amount of amylase-resistant polysaccharides and amylase-sensitive glycogen. These are all terms we've covered in nutrition, so I hope you guys know them. And then moving on to type 2, it will affect a smaller amount of horses, which would be lighter breed horses like quarter horses, thoroughbreds, and Arabians. And this is different because it is only diagnosed with the amylase-sensitive glycogen. So symptoms you would see of PSSM would be the signature tying up. This is where the horse's muscles are really tight and they will not want to move. You will also see sweating to occur, and the horse will be in a state of pain. So for horses that are experiencing episodes, you do not want to force them to move. You want to let them come out of it. You do not want to give them Bute, which is like a horse ibuprofen. It's an NSAID, or Banamine, which is another pain medicine. And another suggestion I found is you want to sedate them so they'll be relaxed and their body will want to come out a bit better. To prevent episodes from occurring, you want to decrease the amount of carbohydrates in their diet because since they're producing glycogen too much anyways, you don't want to feed them extra carbohydrates anyways. You want to keep them on a pasture to graze whenever they want because this frequent grazing will keep their glucose metabolism going. And also regular exercise is suggested so that they, like the glucose metabolism, keep it going. And you kind of want to avoid the high intense exercises like of race horses or like the cross country horse in the picture here because that can trigger episodes to occur. And the last disease I'm going to cover is glycogen branching enzyme deficiency, or GBED. This disease is caused by a base substitution, so a C to an A, and the codon 34 of the GBE1 gene. This is a nonsense mutation, so it's a knockout of function. So it is knocking out the function of the glycogen storing enzyme. So these horses that are affected cannot store glycogen at all, which means that they will not be able to carry out normal bodily functions, and it'll eventually mean death of the horse. It is an autosomal recessive disease, so they would have to have 2 copies of that recessive gene to be afflicted with it. I also wanted to point out that heterozygous carriers are not affected by the disease, they just carry it. So you wouldn't see signs and symptoms. Scientists were able to link this gene back to another famous quarter horse sire, King, pictured on the right. Yes, King Ranch, that he is from there. And they think that it may also be linked to maybe even his sire too, Xantanian, which I don't have a picture of, but. All right, so foals that are not born dead, like I said, they can't carry out normal bodily functions, or aborted. Some are aborted or stillborn. So foals that are still alive when born, they will experience a lot of weakness as their muscles are hardly functioning. You may see hypoglycemic seizures, also respiratory trouble. As you can see in the photo on the right, this foal is struggling, but these 5 doctors are trying to help him. They probably didn't know at that time that the horse was affected with it until samples after it died. Treatment for this disease, like I said, no foal can survive, so it's just recommended to euthanize them before it gets worse. So what is the future for these diseases? The best way to not be affected by these diseases is to just avoid them. So you'd want to avoid crosses of horses that would have these diseases. So what breeders will use is selective breeding. So sometimes, you know, you may have a really good sire or a really good mare that was very successful in the show pen, but she may have one of these diseases. So you would want to breed him or her to a sire that would give a cross that would not be, these diseases would not be affected by. The AQHA, the American Quarter Horse Association, they have been active in trying to reduce the prevalence of these diseases that would happen. So in 1998, when they started to link all this HYPP business back to impressive, they had all his descendants to be tested, and they had the results put on the registration papers, so you knew that when you bought a horse or you were breeding a horse that you may have been or would be affected by HYPP. In 2007, they even made it to where if a horse had 2 copies of that HYPP gene, that they were not allowed to be registered at all. This made it to where, because you wouldn't want to buy or breed to a horse, that you couldn't register it, so it would just decrease the amount of this disease occurring. And just recently, not too long ago, in 2016, they released a 5-panel genetic test that tests for all 3 diseases I covered in this presentation and 2 more. So you would send samples to a lab in California where they would run the tests, and they would put your results on the registration papers of your horse. So all this stuff just helps make breeders make the smartest decisions to try to avoid these crosses, since they can be deadly. Just avoid it as much as possible. So that is all I have for you guys today. Here are my references that I used for this presentation. I do hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something. And Cupcake and Zany would like to say goodbye too. But have a great day.